Welcome to This Week in High School Sports, and happy holidays, and you're in the season.
I am. Same sweater and hat from last year. I do probably need to add something to the closet for next year, but until then, we'll keep rocking the koala.
Right.
Happy holidays.
Absolutely. Happy holidays. So we've got a great lineup this week.
We do. It's a lot of fun. First, we should probably point out a few results from the basketball week, as a handful of our teams doing fairly well. On the girls' side of things, the Edmonds-Woodway Warriors picking up their 5th consecutive victory. Their last one was a 71-38 win over Everett. Adrian Poling having 23 points in that game. They beat Oak Harbor earlier in the week. I didn't even write down the score, but I think it was 64-15. Edmonds-Woodway's been blowing people out, and they're looking really good right now, so congratulations to them. And on the boys' side of things, the Edmonds-Woodway Warriors also picking up a nice win over Everett, 80-34 on Friday night, as Nico McNeil and Madoon Bull scoring 16 points each. And then on Saturday, a rare Saturday game, they defeated Lakeside 48-45. Bull having 20 points in that game. Lynnwood, we'll save Lynnwood. How does that sound?
Okay,
they had a really nice week as well. And then the Mountlake Terrace boys, 6-0 to start their season off. Picked up a huge win on Friday night at Arlington. Both teams were undefeated in league play going into that one. 69-67 is the final score. Mason Christensen scoring 16 of his 28 points in the fourth quarter. Jaice Brakefield had 21 in that game. Mountlake Terrace earlier in the week had defeated Marysville-Getchell 75-58. And in that game, Jesse James Martineau, who was just in studio last week, scored 20 points. Mason Peterson scored 16, and Robbie Beringer scored 15. So Mountlake Terrace doing a nice job of distributing the wealth and picking up victories in the process. And we avoided the Lynnwood teams for the boys and the girls intentionally, even though they both won earlier this week, because we're going to have a little interview with members of their basketball team right now, as well as a former Lynnwood basketball player. Siblings, all three of them, the Boston family, Kaprice, who is now at Seattle Pacific University playing for the Falcons. We've got Nakia, who is starring on the Royals girls basketball team. Jerry, who has been leading the scores for the Lynnwood boys basketball team. They've won 3 in a row, by the way. All in studio, all right now for a very special holiday interview with the Boston family. It is the holiday season, so why not bring family into the equation? We're going to talk a little Lynnwood basketball as well as Seattle Pacific University. We've got the Bostons in, the siblings. Kaprice, who was once upon a time a star basketball player at Lynnwood High School, won a state championship. She's now playing over at Seattle Pacific University. Go Falcons, my alma mater. We also have our 2 Lynnwood Royal current players, junior Nakia Boston from the girls basketball team and senior Jerry Boston from the boys basketball team. First of all, happy holidays to all of you.
Yep, thank you.
Kind of fun. We've had all 3 of you on at different times in the studio, but never together. Kind of a family affair. It's just the 3 of you, right? They're only the 3 kids.
Yeah.
So let's before we get into kind of the family fun and games of horse and things like that, I want to hear a little bit about how your seasons are going so far. Well, we'll start off with older sister. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Caprice, well, first of all, at Seattle Pacific, you were at Northern Arizona last year. How did you make your way back home?
I went through a lot of stuff down there, and I really needed my family. I'm a very family-oriented person. I love to be close to them. So, me being far away kind of killed me a little bit because I missed out on them growing up and playing. So I decided to come home.
And I know when I asked you off camera if it was nice to be back, the 2 of you answered first, right? You kind of like having big sister back around.
I love having her back.
Yeah. What's it mean for you, Nakia? You were obviously not just little sister. You were teammates for 1 year at Lynnwood. How is it to have Kaprice back in the building on game nights?
It's a lot better because she makes me relax more, and just knowing that she's there for support helps me a lot.
And Jerry, for you, obviously getting to be big brother at school, but now you get to be little brother back again too. Is it kind of nice?
Yeah, but at the same time, I like being the older brother. And when she was there, man, I had a younger sister and an older sister, so I constantly got an earful of stuff at school. But it's good to have her back because we used to FaceTime her a lot. We never got to see her in person. Now that she's back here, you
can put the phone away and just talk to her in person.
Yep.
And how is the year going at Seattle Pacific? I know you're already getting some playing time. Mm-hmm. A little bit banged up right now, but before you got injured a couple weeks ago, you're starting to play fairly well too, right?
Yeah. I struggled with confidence a little bit at the beginning of the season, and as time grew, because we got new coaches, so adjusting to their system and from the system I was in last year, it kind of took me a little bit, but I finally got to get my groove back. I probably had one of my best overall games the game I got injured.
You did, I think, 4 steals, 3 block shots in 24 minutes?
Yeah.
fairly impressive. And you're playing with some other girls that are local too, right? I know Ashley Alter, I think, is on your roster from Stanwood,
Yep.
and a few others that you've played with from back in the days. Is it kind of nice to recognize some familiar faces, at least through Wesco?
Yes, it's so much fun. Me and Ashley are actually really close. I didn't really think that, I thought we would be close, but not as close as we are. Because we were always playing against each other. I kind of had that rivalry, but she's pretty cool.
And we do need to mention, because we are an Edmonds School District show, talk about your head coach, a Meadowdale graduate at that.
Mm-hmm. Coach Mike Simonson, he is so much fun to be around. He's just as competitive as us girls. We'll all be doing a drill and somebody will win and he'll run down the court and run over and chest bump, and he's a lot of fun to be around.
Very good. Does he ever talk a little Mavs, Royals trash talk with you?
Yeah, he used to tell me that they used to beat up on Lynnwood back in his day, and I was like, well, that wasn't the case in mine.
No, it was not. And I think he's right, though. Back in those days, the Meadowdale girls basketball program was solid. Nakia, speaking of a solid basketball program, give me a little bit of a background as to how the season's going for you right now. Obviously, you've had some ups and downs already this year, with health being a concern for a while, but you seem to be back now and playing well. How's your season going?
I think that our season is going to go good. We're kind of the underdogs, just like we were last year, and no one expected us to get as far as we did. And I think we're going to do the same thing this year, because the league is pretty much open this year. There's no, one dominant team, so I think that we have a chance just like any other team does.
Well, and you're a young team, too. I'm looking at your roster right here. 0 seniors. So juniors and then the freshman sensation, right, Jones. Tell me a little bit about what it's been like playing with these girls and how they're coming along.
At first, it was a little rough because we didn't have a lot of returners, so we had to take people up from JV, and then we have the freshman, Mia Jones. But once we start playing with each other, it's a whole different ball game. We just have to learn a little more chemistry, and then I think we're going to be a threat to the whole league.
And getting a nice victory on Friday against Oak Harbor, and then you're going up to Blaine next week for a holiday tournament. Jerry, what on earth is going on with the Royals boys right now? I like it. I'm saying that in a good way. I saw you guys play a game a couple weeks ago where Mariner just destroyed you guys. You started off your season with 5 losses. You've since then won 3 games in a row, including a big win over Stanwood earlier this week.
Gosh.
Stanwood's a team that really has kind of owned Wesco for a while, or at least one of the top teams all throughout the last decade. What's going on with the Royals? What woke you guys up?
Man, coming into the season with 5 losses, we had to change something up. We didn't know if it was our confidence, our mentality. Every day in practice, we were working hard because we just wanted to get that first win. So, after a while, we seen Stanwood coming up. We're like, well, we're going to make some noise in Wesco because, when has that people ever counted Lynnwood in, the Lynnwood boys. So, it feels good that we are getting off to a great start because after our 5 losses, our coach Bobby said, hey, from now on, we're 0-0. The season just started. So going in, we had that mentality where we just started. So we're starting to pick it up. It's a great team effort and a good coaching staff. So we're here to make some noise.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, and I'm going to be very candid with you, I expected you guys to get beat rather easily against Stanwood. I was a little shocked when I saw the score. I was not at the game. Did you guys really feel going into that game that, hey, we can do this? We're just as good as anybody else in this league, and we can play with anyone on any given night?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because we know that when we play as a team and we come together, that we're as good as anybody in the state. And I feel like us as a team, it just starts within the team. Like we can only beat ourselves, and that's what we tell each other every day. And going into the game, we watch film, we prepared in practice, and we sat down. We're like, hey, if we come out here and give 110%, we can hang with them. And eventually, we ended up beating them, and it just felt good because we haven't beat them since 1978. So it's been a long time.
Was that what the record was? 1978?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So,
I can imagine you might think that was a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we celebrated in the locker room because it just felt good that we could say that we beat them. First time in a long time.
And I guess if you're going to drop some games, do it early in the season when they don't count, when they're non-conference. You guys have since won 3 out of your 4 conference games, so you're right in the thick of things for the league, which is kind of nice for you guys, a place where you're not used to being, right?
Yeah. It definitely feels great. We're trying to change things for a program and the school, and we're definitely making some noise because a lot of people are now coming out to watch us, and we're just here to, we're here to stay, and we're here to make some noise and get far.
And there we go. So we'll see how far they can take it. Now, in the past, we've talked about 3 of you on 2 different teams. Now we're spread out to 3 different teams, all locally. I feel like, well, I know for a fact when I was at the Mariner game, these 2 were in the stands making some noise and watching. What is it like when one of you is playing and the other 2 are not? Pretty much more often than not, you're at the games, right?
Yeah.
A lot of feedback given to one another, or a lot of basketball conversation after the game. Who's critiquing whom, I guess?
I think we all critique each other just as, like, nobody does it more than one another. We're very hard on ourselves and on each other because we know when we're pushed to our limits and, like, when we're giving our full effort. So I feel like if I know that Nakia is not going as hard as she can, like, I'll definitely call her out on it, and Jerry will do the same thing.
And then, Nakia, for you being the youngest one, is it hard to give that kind of feedback or critiquing of older siblings, or are you pretty comfortable doing that? I mean, we're talking about a college basketball player next year.
Well, I've watched her play for forever, and with her being a college basketball player, I expect a lot of her, and I've seen her best and I've seen her worst, so I know what she can do. So I feel like it's easy to critique her in some areas, so I do it for sure.
Well, Jerry, what is that like? Because I would think there are often times when you're coming off a rough game, maybe a loss, not feeling great. The last thing you want to do is have family members get in your face and tell you what you didn't do correctly. I mean, is it something that you take as positive critiquing, or are there times when you just have to kind of put your hand up and go, yeah, not right now?
Yeah, definitely I take it as positive, but, like, for example, like, after that Mariner game, I was like, you know what, let's just go home, eat dinner, and then we can talk about it after. But I definitely take it as positive because there's always things you can work on. There's always things that you can do better. Yeah, but definitely there's some times where I try not to sit in the middle of the back seat because, you know, there's 4 other people around you, so I try to sit near the window. But, yeah, I definitely take it as positive feedback.
And mom and dad are kind of basketball aficionados too, right? So
yeah.
It's not just the two of you giving feedback to one. And are you getting it from all 4 angles, or is it?
We're
All
getting it
4
from
angles,
everyone.
yeah.
And we'll talk about mom and dad a little bit because I know they go to as many games as they can, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, on Friday nights they've got some decisions to make at the high school level because, and I know we talked about this with you, Jerry, last year. Sometimes mom goes to one, dad goes to the other. Now all of a sudden there's 3 games. Is there some sort of a chart at home now that kind of shows them which games they're going to?
Yeah. So it's like we have a little calendar at home that says Kaprice's game, Nakia's game, Jerry's game. And it's kind of like they're picking and choosing, like, it's like a draft board. They'll sit there and be like, okay, I'm going here and you go here. And then, like, they'll debate a little bit. But, you know, we always try to get our mom to come because, like, filming is just, she has great filming. But our dad, he's a little shaky with the camera. Oh, my gosh.
Jerry and I talked about this off camera last year, and we didn't bring it up during the interview, but yeah, you said Dad's got a real steady basketball hand. We know he can shoot the rock.
Yeah, but
not great with the camera, huh?
No, he doesn't have a steady camera hand at all. No.
Let's get some work on that, Dad. So are there moments where maybe, Nakia, where you really, it's a big game and you really want support there? Do you ever find yourself lobbying mom or dad for, hey, I'd really like you to be at my game this night, or do you just kind of let it play out the way it is? What's it like for you?
Sometimes if it's a really, really big game, I want my dad there just because he's had experience with super big games and it makes me feel more relaxed. But then if it's like a really good game that like a school might ask me for film on, then for sure I'm going to have my mom because my dad doesn't have a good hand when it comes to the camera.
So it's the recruiting film that you need from mom on those particular nights. Hey, what are games of horse like? We've talked about this with both of you or all 3 of you on different interviews we've had in the past, but has it changed at all? In a game of horse, and you guys have a hoop in the yard, right?
Yeah.
So who's winning? I know in the past you both have told me on the answer that Nakia is the horse player. Is it still the case, or?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm probably always the first one out, so it's definitely between them 2.
Yeah, I think it'd be tight between me and Nakia, but, you know,
I think I'd win.
I'm pretty humble, but I'm definitely going to say I'm after one on that one.
So Nakia, do you have a go-to shot on horse? Where?
I like.
If you really need to get that letter out, yeah, where are you going?
3-pointer from the right side, and then
corner or kind of on the wing?
On the wing for sure, and then I think that I would be able to get him out.
Jerry, of course, when we're playing, you can't be dunking the ball, so it's I'm not going to let you have that one. But what's your go-to shot for horse?
Definitely the left corner 3-pointer.
Okay.
Like, I'll definitely stand there all day and shoot that shot.
So we got a left corner, a right wing. Are you taking a 3-ball also, or?
Yeah, probably. I think my shot is from the corner. I think that's where I make most of my 3-pointers, so probably somewhere on either corner. Doesn't really matter.
And you guys have all told me in the past too that it's not just the 3 of you that get competitive with basketball. I know Dad was a really good ball player back in his day at Garfield and played some college ball. Uncle Bryant, watched him play at the University of Washington. Uncle Jason, University of Washington.
Yeah.
So when we get everybody together in the room, who's winning horse?
The older guys.
Definitely, it's down to the older boys.
Oh my, yeah,
Still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you might be up there.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
Height-wise, I'm up there, but shooting-wise, yeah, I'm not up there yet.
So who's ultimately winning the game? Is it coming down between Uncle Brian and Dad, or?
Yeah, to me, it's Uncle Brian or Dad.
Uncle Brian, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely them 2.
So it could be an interesting one. And you guys aren't just competitive on basketball here either, right? Is it
Everything.
Everything.
board games, video games?
Family
what?
game nights, yes.
Intense.
They get intense.
Did they get intense? Who's the most intense of
My
the group?
mom.
Mom by
Mom.
far.
Okay.
Mom definitely.
That's where you get it from then, okay.
Yeah.
And are we talking just like even board games or
Yeah, anything.
what are the go-to games in the house? What do we
We play
Probably Taboo. Or,
Taboo. Gets pretty crazy.
Pictionary.
Pictionary.
Oh, Pictionary.
Gets
Pictionary
wild.
gets wild. Yeah.
What's the card game?
Oh, we play apples to apples. Like anything that we play, our mom.
Any game.
Our
Any
mom
game.
is just. Whoa, man, she's.
nobody wants to
Intense.
sit by mom at the table then? Is that-
No. Like she's on one side of the table, we're three on the
Everyone's
other
on the
side.
other.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that competitiveness though carries over to the basketball court? I mean, does it help you get to where you're at? I mean,
Definitely. I think
Definitely.
it brings out our fire. We're competitive with everything, like board games, grades, chores sometimes. So I think that transfers over and it kind of gives us just a little extra passion just because that's something that we're always doing. We're always competitive. So when we step on the court, it just brings it out.
And who's the most fiery of the three of you?
That one.
Yeah, for
Little
sure.
sister.
Oh,
Yeah. Even when she's sitting in the crowd, you can definitely hear this one. She's always screaming or standing up, jumping. Yeah, she's the most fiery.
Now, is she the scream at the ref type or is she screaming at you guys?
Definitely.
Both.
Yeah, both. And then my mom, she's more of the ref, and then
Yeah.
my dad is more of us. Yeah, so I mean, you got three different types of fans.
It's a
out the
nice,
crowd.
nice mixture then. Let me hear you talk about each other's games a little bit. And maybe we'll start off with, maybe I'll have the two of you talk about Kaprice first. What do we see with her out on the court? What does she do well?
She's a big leader on the court. When she steps on the court, there's a whole new energy. She brings her team and herself up. It's really inspiring because you don't see a lot of players that can do that. But when she's on the court, her whole team runs faster. They all kind of follow in how her game is.
Jerry, do you have anything to add to that? What do you see from Kaprice out there?
What I see her nice white teeth because she's always smiling. She's definitely very athletic, so she uses that to her advantage. She has very great defense. That's the one thing that I like watching her, is she always brings defensive energy, and she just carries this good positive energy on the court, and that's why I like watching Kaprice play.
What is it about positive energy and playing it? I mean, you see a lot of people who are a little more fierce and determined, and they get that look in their eye, and maybe one of them sitting next to you, I don't know. And then there's others, and Alex Macias made that comment about you last year when he was in here, that you're always kind of a happy-go-lucky guy out on the floor. I mean, do you each use that kind of to your own advantage in different ways? But Kaprice, what is it about for you and being out on the court that do you kind of have to go out of your way to make sure that you're having fun in the moment, or do you ever find yourself going, okay, I need to kind of pick myself up a little bit because now I'm getting a little too intense?
Yeah, so I've had some very tough coaches, and it's weird because I like to be yelled at, but I'm hard on myself, so I will get down on myself. But if I keep reminding myself that I'm out here because I want to be here and I need to be having fun, it just instantly picks me back up, and I'll go from like being 0-5, and then I'll smile, and just everything will just go back to normal. It's weird. I feel like I always kind of have that positive, like happy-go-lucky. I'm just happy to be here. Like I want to be that person that I foul you. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna turn around and smile because that's just who I am.
And it's working for you. Okay, let's have the two older siblings talk about Nakia in the middle here. What kind of a basketball player do we see when we watch her?
She's definitely very strong.
Yes.
She uses her body well in games. She's one of those girls that you don't want to try to take a charge because she'll just run you right over. But yeah, she's very strong, and she gets her teammates involved. And Nakia is very determined to win. She's the opposite of Kaprice. She doesn't really smile much. She has that like killer face on in the game. Like, you don't want to mess with me. But yeah, that's why I like watching Kia play.
She is a competitor. She's always been a little fireball since she was little. She's loud. She is a leader. We're all different positions, and I think that in each position on the court there needs to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And Nakia she'll yell. She'll not run the play until you're there. She is a very all-around good player. She knows what her strengths are: defense, driving to the basket, and she gets everybody involved.
Do you enjoy taking on that leadership role, especially on a team like this where you don't have any seniors and you're a junior? Is it kind of important for you to take on that personality on the floor?
It definitely is important, especially since we don't have like one huge dominant player. I think being a leader is very important, especially because we don't have a lot of girls with experience on our team. So being that leader and just making everyone feel involved is one of the key points in our game for my team. So I think it's very important that we take that role.
Mm-hmm. And then what about the guy on the end here? Ladies, tell me a little bit about Jerry Boston and what kind of a player he is out on the floor.
Jerry has always kind of not been the underdog, but like people don't forget about him, but he's just been there. And these past couple years, he's worked so hard. I think he's worked harder probably than I have in a really long time to get back up there. Mm-hmm. And he's so competitive. He's so good. He's probably one of the best shooters I've ever met. And when he brings his energy, there's no stopping him. Mm-hmm. There's no stopping him.
Nakia?
I absolutely love watching my brother play. His determination to get where he wants to go is beyond any other player I've seen. He makes sure that people will remember his name. He wants to be known, and he will go shoot in a gym for 3 hours by himself, which a lot of players won't do. He will work, and it's showing in his games. You see the move that he practiced 30 times by himself. His threes drain. Like, he's an all-around player because he wants to be.
Self-made.
Yeah.
It's always impressive. And the three of you have actually played on the same team once upon a time, right? It's been a while.
Yeah.
And how old are we talking?
I was in 5th grade.
I was in second.
I was in 3rd. We were.
It was just a one-game deal. Is that what I understand?
Yeah. One
okay.
game.
But it's one that you have a lot of fond memories of it, right? Or do you? I mean,
my memories aren't so fun, but theirs are probably really
It was fun because we were all shooting the ball well. We all hit a 3. And, it was a close game, and, it would have been a perfect, fairy tale ending if somebody would just hit a layup. But, Kaprice got on a fast break. We all thought she was going to win it, and unfortunately.
Was
it a buzzer?
Yeah.
It would have been on the buzzer, but I threw it off the backboard so hard it went back to half court.
Yeah, so I mean.
And the two of them off camera were still giving you a hard time about it. So it's not something you ever forget.
Yeah, I can never live that down. It's not the first time I've missed a layup like that. I've done it a couple times in high school. I've even done it in college. So, it's just kind of funny. That's constantly, reminding me this little time.
And then we should point out, Jerry, you were filling in for these two were already on the same team, right?
Yeah.
So you were just kind of a fill-in player for that game, is that right?
Yeah, I was a fill-in player. And then, man, we could have won the NBA Finals with us there on the same team. We were good.
So at holiday gatherings or family gatherings, when the uncles and dad are playing, are the three of you ever team together, or usually kind of spread out a little bit?
I think it kind of depends on who else is playing. If the older guys are playing, we'll probably all be on the same team. But if it's just kids, 1 or 2 of them, we'll probably all split up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we should point out too, speaking about the family staying together, the two of you. Nakia and Jerry, you're going to be at the same holiday tournament this year, which is kind of unique.
Yeah.
Lynnwood deciding to head on up to Blaine December 27th and 28th. I know for the boys the last couple of years you've gone to Wenatchee, and we talked to you about it last year. We've talked to Coach Camp about it. You get to stay in hotels when you go do that one, so it's a little bonding experience. Are we going to do the same thing up in Blaine then this year? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so both teams staying together.
Yeah.
So what is that going to be like? Are you kind of excited about that, or?
I'm excited. I'm friends with all the boys on the team, so it will be fun if we can all do something like play a game together or go eat together. But it's really up to both teams.
Now, Jerry, will it get competitive between the boys and the girls? And I'm guessing Coach Camp's probably already scoping out bowling alleys. I know he likes to bowl, right?
Oh yeah, he's definitely a big bowler. And if the girls do go, it's definitely gonna be competitive. We'll probably go boys versus girls in bowling. And now that my sister's going, it's going to be definitely a very competitive bowling match.
Do the girls have bowling game, or how are we looking? Do you know?
I have no idea. I hope we do.
How's the ping pong doing, by the way? I know Bobby Hinnenkamp's challenged you guys to ping pong in the past, head coach.
Man, he's a different type of monster in ping pong. He's a big guy on smiling, but when he hits that ping pong table, he just the smile goes away and it's all fun and games aside, and he's out to get you. He can play with both hands, so, he definitely beats every person that tries, except our assistant coach, Coach Lee. He's good, too. So it's them two versus everybody else, and, you're just not winning.
So we will see what happens over the break. And we should mention, too, the games at Blaine. So the girls are going to be playing – you've got some earlier games up there. So on Thursday, the 27th, you're playing Bellingham, 2 p.m. Then the next day you play Renton at 1 p.m., whereas the boys are playing a little bit later in the day. 8 p.m. start time for you on Thursday against Blaine. And then you have a 4 p.m. against Mount Baker the next day. So, business trip, but also a fun trip then, right? Is that kind of how we're kind of hearing it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately for you, Kaprice, you have to go back to school by then, right? You're getting ready for the Falcons' second half of the season?
Yep.
We did mention you missed a little time this year. Are you going to be be healthy enough to play in 2019?
I'm praying that I'll be able to go. I should be able to go. I feel fine. But it's kind of just up to what my doctor says and what my coaches are going to allow me to do. Because they can always tell me, like, just we want to make sure you're good for one more week, and then you'll be able to go.
And it was a shin injury, right?
Yeah.
Or both shins?
Both shins.
Okay. And for the two of them over here, we do have some parting prizes here. Nakia, last week we named you the Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week. And I'm going to, preface this by giving a little story here. We were going to try to save you for later on in the year, but you had a 28-point game coming off a pretty scary injury, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but I just want to make sure that we know you seem like you're doing much better now, right? I know you had an issue where you collapsed on the floor during a game and ended up having to leave and get medical treatment. How are you feeling these days?
I'm feeling a lot better. I've changed my diet. I drink a lot more water just to make sure that my body's healthy and ready for me to play.
Well, you were ready that night. You had a 28-point game coming back from that. So for you, an Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week shirt. And then Jerry, we have to honor you this week. I mean, you beat Stanwood for crying out loud. Unbelievable. And then you followed that up with a nice victory over Oak Harbor. I know you were the leading scorer in those games. And we're going to also give you an Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week shirt. And I know Jerry appreciates these shirts because I've seen him wearing his shirt from last year around.
All the time.
So we got another one for you now, so you can put that into the repertoire. Caprice, unfortunately, we don't do a College Player of the Week, but nonetheless, it's nice to have you here. And I did want to ask you also, from that Lynnwood Royals team, Western Washington's got a pretty darn good one right now. Kelsey Rogers leading the team in scoring. Tell me a little bit about where some of the girls are these days and how often you keep in touch with them.
So believe it or not, we still have a group chat. We don't constantly talk in it, but it's the Lady Royals on Snapchat, so we're always still communicating. Kelsey is out here balling at Western. I'm so proud of her.
And you're going to be playing her in a few weeks.
Yeah, we play Western on January 17th. That's amazing. JoJo's at San Diego. She has to sit out this year, but she'll be back
Jordan
next
Edwards,
year.
yeah.
And Michaela Pivick at Oregon State.
Having a phenomenal year.
Love her. Hooper. Riley Walsh and Rachel Walsh are at Wyoming, some community college in Wyoming, and they're balling out too.
So everybody kind of spreading out, doing their own thing, and still playing ball. So, and I should also ask, it is the holiday season. What do the Bostons have planned for the holiday break here, besides basketball?
Our grandparents are coming into town today, so we're probably gonna hang out with them and get all of our Christmas shopping done today.
And so it's Christmas shopping on December 23rd. Why not? And the two of you have already told me. Well, he confessed to it also. Jerry's the eater of the group, right?
Oh, for sure.
Eats everything.
So what does the holiday menu look like for you, Jerry? What do you enjoy eating?
Well, my grandma makes a mean fruit salad, so I'll definitely be all over that. And then I always request potatoes because I love potatoes. Any style, I'll eat it. Just basically anything they make, I'm the last one to leave the dinner table. So, I can't.
Nakia's giving a big head shake on that one too. So, and what about the two of you? Do you have a favorite go-to for guilty pleasure holiday snack that you have to run off in the gym afterwards? Or
I like eating my grandma's rolls. I could sit there and eat those all day.
I would have to say I like the morning cinnamon rolls that we get every morning when Grandma's over. Those are the best.
I hear a theme there. It's Grandma that keeps getting mentioned there. So good that she's in town then, right?
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
So again, it's been great having all three of you to cover not only over the last few years, but happy to still be able to talk to all of you along the way here. It's been fun. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Yep,
thank you for being here, and continued success to all three of you.
Thank you.
I can't think of a more fun place to be during the holidays than the Boston games.
As long as they're not playing board games, right?
Right,
then it's a
yeah.
little bit competitive. But yeah, what a great family.
Yeah,
and
really.
as soon as we found out that we were able to get all three of them in here, I was pretty excited. I had a feeling we were going to have a very good interview, and we did. Just a fun group to talk to, great kids, and just have really enjoyed watching them succeed and grow over the last few years.
Yeah, that's one of the things we enjoy about doing this show is we get to watch the athletes kind of grow up. So, and the siblings and all that.
And move on and play college ball after
right.
watching them in the early stages of high school. And now it's just a matter of maybe seeing where Jerry goes next year. As we were talking to him during one of the breaks, being pulled in a lot of different directions. Grandparents down in Oregon would like him down there. Uncle Bryant lives back in Maryland. He said he could head on over to the East Coast and stay with him. Of course, I think the other siblings may be wanting him to stay close. I know Kaprice would love to see him at Seattle Pacific next year, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, okay. Well, and we can move on to wrestling now, right?
We can. A lot of wrestling going on this week. Edmonds-Woodway, surprise, surprise, had a dual meet with Mountlake Terrace and Archbishop Murphy on Thursday night over at Mountlake Terrace, and the Warriors kind of running away with that one. Speaking of the Warriors, last weekend they were at the El Cajon Invitational down in California. 60 different teams there, 60 schools from all throughout the West Coast. And a handful of our wrestlers actually placing and getting on the podium for that one. The Lecomte brothers, Reese Lecomte took 8th place in the 106 weight class. Grayson Lecomte took 7th place in the 126. Alex Rapelli took 7th place in the 132. And then Christian Simpson took 8th place on the 138. So the fact that you've got 4 wrestlers all finishing in the top 8 at a large, prestigious tournament like that certainly speaks volumes to how Edmonds-Woodway's doing this week, or how they've been doing all season. And then finally, the girls last Saturday were at the Pride of the Lady Lions wrestling tournament in Linden. 38 schools up there. Victoria Keys from Edmonds-Woodway took 2nd place at that tournament, and for her efforts and for taking 2nd with a 38-school tournament, we're going to give Victoria our Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week shirt. So, Victoria, wear that proudly. We'll get that out to you soon. And yeah, that's it for the wrestling teams for the time being, as they get a little break for the holiday now.
Okay, and I hear a rumor we have more wrestlers to talk to.
We do. We have 2 wrestlers that came in studio, Mountlake Terrace, last week on the 15th of December. 2 of our Mountlake Terrace wrestlers took 1st and 2nd place in their respective weight classes at the Lynnwood Invitational, which I think had 11 schools there. So why not bring them in to talk a little wrestling? Jaice and Pedro from the Mountlake Terrace Hawks. The Mountlake Terrace High School boys wrestling team has been in action over the last few weeks, and 2 gentlemen who have had a lot of success already this season are joining us right now. We have Pedro Lopez-Hernandez and Jaice Jones. Guys, thank you for being here today. And I want to start off by talking about the Lynnwood Classic, which took place last Saturday on December 15th. 11-team tournament, and you both did extremely well. Pedro, you took 1st place in the 138-pound category. Jaice, you took 2nd place in the 182. Nicely done, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about the Lynnwood Classic. Pedro, a lot of wrestlers you knew coming into the tournament. Did you know the bracket ahead of time? What was that like when you showed up that day?
So like the previous week we had a tournament, Spudwally, and then like I saw, I think, Mariner, Kamiak, and then Archbishop Murphy and Anna Cordes, so I already knew like a couple of the guys that were going to be there. But like I never saw any of them wrestle, so I was kind of like going into that tournament with like sort of like a blank mind, like not knowing what to expect. And then I think like 2 of the guys I was expecting to wrestle like dropped down a weight class or didn't show up, and I'm like, oh, well, now I don't know what really to do.
Just go out there and wrestle. That's all you can do, right?
The goal was like just to win the tournament after all.
Well, you achieved your goal, so nicely done. Jaice, that brings up a good point, though. When you go to another tournament, say a week or 2 out, and you know that there's this other tournament coming up on the horizon, do you start to try to scout out a little bit? Do you ever try to go over and kind of keep an eye on the schedule that's yet to come, knowing that, hey, there might be a wrestler or 2 here that I need to worry about, and I might want to learn something here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll check out the roster sometimes, and if I see someone that's in the weight class that I think or know is going to be in a school that I'm going to be facing in the future, I'll try and make a point out of it to go and see how they wrestle in their match, how good they're doing, how they place. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you got to be watching your teammates wrestling matches. But yeah, it's definitely.
So 2nd place at this particular tournament, is that a finish you were happy with? Or?
Yeah, definitely. It's come a long way since last year, being my 2nd year of high school wrestling last year. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the same as Pedro. I went in not really knowing anything about the guys I was going to wrestle. I mean, the guy that I wrestled for 1st place, Pedro knew more about him than I did, and it came down pretty close. I was ahead in points, lost in the 2nd round, but yeah, it was definitely an outcome that I was happy with.
Very nicely done for both of you. Talk about each other for a minute. Rather than put you on the spot and ask each of you what your strengths are, I want to hear the other one tell me what you've seen in watching the other in practice and in matches and whatnot. Pedro, I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about Jaice and what he does well out on the mat.
So some things that I actually enjoy watching Jaice is he reminds me a lot of a wrestler my freshman year, Chaplin Mack. As in he's not the most technical wrestler, but he makes up for it in his speed and strength and like just his heart. Like the kid could be like beating JC in points, and then JC like somehow manages to like slip in a quick throw and like wins the match, or he'll just go out with this like big heart because our duel against Edmonds-Woodway last year, it was like the most intense match because I think it came down to like what overtime, but the score was like 2-2 at the end of regulation, and then JC I think won it with like the seconds dwindling down into the first round of overtime.
Anytime you can get a comparison to one of the Mack brothers, it's not a bad thing, right?
Right.
They'll take that.
Yeah.
So now, JC, tell me a little bit about Pedro.
Pedro is, it's like the opposite of what he said about me, not in like the heart or anything like that, but he is like the most technical wrestler that I know. I mean, he's very good at not only explaining technique to the other wrestlers, but he executes it extremely well. I mean, there was a time in practice the other day where we were doing live matches for varsity for the next tournament. We were doing competitions, and so Pedro and I didn't have anyone to wrestle for our weight classes, and someone goes, "Who's gonna wrestle Pedro?" And I go, "Well, I'll wrestle Pedro," as a joke, and then they're like, "Okay, sweet, we're doing it." And I'm like, "Okay." So I just did a live match with Pedro for fun, and obviously I'm a lot heavier than Pedro.
He's giving up 40+ pounds on that one.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, and so it wasn't like this super even set matchup, but we went for a long time because I swear every single time I would try and get a snap or a shot on Pedro, he was always able to slip out of it, or he was really good at like getting a shot on or almost getting a shot on me, which for someone who's a lot lighter than me, it's super different, and I was exhausted after my match with Pedro, so he's super technical, really knows what he's doing. He's come a long way since I first saw him wrestle freshman year.
You say coming a long way, so maybe I'll ask each of you this question individually. Where do you feel your biggest improvement has been this year as your senior year, maybe in comparison to your junior year? Pedro, for you, where do you view yourself as having improved the most?
It's just wrestling, being able to hang in there with like some of the top guys in the state now.
So maybe just more experience and another year of growth type of a thing?
Yeah, more experience, because I think when I was first starting, I was just getting beat by anyone, even JV kids. And so now I think my only 3 losses have come to guys ranked top 10 in the state so far.
Top 10 in the state and at higher levels in a lot of cases too for classification. JC, what about you? This is only year number 3 for you wrestling at the high school level, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So have you seen yourself improve quite a bit, and if so, in what areas?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely tried to come. I've come a ways in technique. Like Pedro said, I'm not super technical, and while that is just kind of that's kind of seemed to be the trend with how I've wrestled these last few years, I definitely want to get a lot better at my technique. Getting my stance right, getting my setups right, getting in better shots. So I definitely think that I've come a long way in that this year. Not as far as I'd like to, and that's something that I'm going to continue to work on this year. But yeah, basically just technique.
And you have a lot of season left still too to work on that.
Yeah.
Talk about the team a little bit. I know as far as team success, we haven't seen a lot. It kind of feels like there's a little drop off after the 2 of you, and maybe a couple other guys kind of in that same category. But as far as this team, I should mention it's a very young team. I'm looking at the roster here, a lot of freshmen. Pedro, for you, I know in the past you've had guys like Renee Mack and some others, and all of a sudden you guys are 2 of the only 3 seniors on the entire squad. A little bit of a learning curve for some of these guys, and do you feel yourself maybe taking on a little more of a leadership role?
Yeah, and I've got a compliment to the seniors from my freshman year because they like took us under their wing too, and tried to teach us like technique. And so it's kind of like nice to like return that back now to the freshmen, because it's kind of hard when you have a young team, because if you see them getting beat so many times, they can only take like so many losses before they say like, I quit, or why even bother with this anymore. So it's important for like guys like me and JC to constantly keep reassuring them that like if they keep going with this and they like hang in there, it'll get better with time.
It's not a sport that you just walk into right away and have success. More often than not, right? It takes a little bit of a build-up.
Yeah.
And JC, for you can kind of even speak to that a little bit, having not started till your sophomore year. So what are you able to provide some of the younger guys?
Yeah, so I actually started my freshman year at the same time as Pedro, so I took a break during sophomore year. So I was there with Pedro, and we had Chaplin Mack, we had Renee Mack, we had a bunch of other guys, Pavel Oliverovsky, all these super tough wrestlers. I mean, I wrestled 160 my freshman year, and so did Chaplin Mack. So it was every week I was challenge matching him for the varsity spot, which I never won. But after my first couple challenge matches with him, it became a goal just to not get pinned. And so I was able to get to that at some point, and that's kind of the mental toughness or endurance that we hope to pass on to this new generation of wrestlers on the wrestling team.
And who are some of the other wrestlers we're watching when we go to a Mountlake Terrace Hawks match right now?
So we've got Dylan Brewer, who's a junior. He's doing really good this year. This is his second year wrestling. So he started his sophomore year last year. He's come a long way. We have Tyler Exke, who is a sophomore this year. He went to some sort of a jiu-jitsu final, world final thing last year or this year, and placed second. And so he's got a martial arts background, and he's very technical, but he's also got this great attitude about him. James, who came into this year as a freshman, James Fletcher, he wrestled, I think, just in middle school. I could be wrong. He might have more experience than that. But he's had a pretty good season so far. I mean, I wasn't really sure coming into the season, but he's definitely proven himself on the mat.
And Fletcher made it to the semifinals in that Lynnwood tournament last week as well. Talk about Coach Pearson a little. We hear the name. I know he was also the cross-country coach this year. Brand new to the program as Coach Thompson moves away. And maybe, JC, I'll start by asking you this because I know you and I talked about it a little bit off camera. Brings a little different element to the equation, too, in the sense of training and nutrition, right?
Yeah, totally. So the way that Coach Thompson would do it, I mean, it's kind of just this super tough, let's keep pushing through the workout, let's keep going, I know you're tired. It's a different approach with Coach Pearson because he's got these several degrees in education for physical education. So he comes in with this knowledge of diet and nutrition and certain workouts that is supposed to ultimately benefit us to the max. So he knows what certain workouts will benefit us over a certain amount of time. His brother, as we've been told, was an undefeated wrestler in Washington State. So he's been around wrestling his whole life. I'm pretty sure he also wrestled when he was younger. And his dad, Jim, who is also, has been around it because his sons have both wrestled, he's in and he helps give us pointers and stuff like that too.
And then for you, Pedro, I know you're kind of a workout guy anyway, right? Matter of fact, tell me a little bit about Red Flag and what that was last year. And I guess it's kind of legendary right now, right, amongst the team. So tell me a little bit about how that went down.
So I believe Red Flag Day actually started with Coach Thompson's first year. And so it starts out with just a regular practice, just a little bit more intense for the first hour. And then after that, he circles everyone up, points to the clock, and tells us, all right, so this next hour is going to be dedicated to just conditioning. You can quit right now or whenever you feel like it. Last person standing gets to wear the coveted red Penn State singlet. And so, everyone just tries to goes as hard as they can during the whole thing. So
we talking up, downs, running the entire gamut?
We did circle of pains, we did sprints, buddy carries, seal walks, wall walks, bear crawls. I mean, it was everything to just get you exhausted and make you quit within the first 10 minutes.
And you lasted how long?
Last year, I think, was the longest one on record. Me and this other wrestler, Patrick Milam, we lasted, I think, 56 minutes before I finally dropped on push-ups.
So pretty impressive then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it got to the point where they're circling each other in the middle of the mat, and Thompson's going down. They go dude up down, down to dude up down. I mean, for 5 minutes straight, he looks at the clock and he starts laughing. And he goes, "How are they still doing this?"
And it's gotten him here, so nicely done. As far as your schedule's concerned, this is a little bit awkward. You guys don't wrestle again competitively until January 9th.
Yeah, so we we didn't have a wrestling coach hired for a little while. Coach Pearson was hired a little bit later into, I guess, the selecting process. They had already selected all of our matches and tournaments before, I guess, they really even knew if they were going to have a dedicated wrestling coach for this year. So he didn't get a lot of say in what matches were going to be added to the schedule or changed or stuff like that. So it's pretty light this year, which is unfortunate for Pedro and I because, you know, it's our senior year and we'd like to be able to wrestle a lot more and have a lot more chances to place and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much.
But does it also mean you guys get to eat a little more over the holiday break, Pedro?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to worry about making weight at this point, right?
Yeah.
Although coach is keeping you guys busy, right? You're practicing, what, Christmas Eve and the day after Christmas?
Yeah.
So no time for rest there for you guys, certainly. Tell me a little bit about your goals for the year. What are your expectations? Pedro, you came very close to making it to state last year. Obviously, the big match is taking place in the Tacoma Dome in February. That's the ultimate goal for every high school wrestler in Washington State. Do you think you have a good shot this year, and what would that mean to you?
Yeah, I think I have a decent shot at going to state, as long as I make certain adjustments to my wrestling style still. Last year it was kind of heartbreaking to end it at regionals, especially being so close into the blood round to go to state, and then losing the state alternate match with 30 seconds left, being up by 1. And then going to state and watching just all this madness unfold. Because last year at state, I actually saw at the 2A a state champ actually get put out of the tournament on the first day, and then I saw returning state champs get beat in the semis, returning state champs get beat, and it just kind of opened my eyes and taught me anything can happen. No one's really safe in this sport. But yeah, my ultimate goal is to go to state and place.
And JC, I'm assuming you'd like to be there with him if that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year at districts, I lost a match for true second after I'd earned second place. So I went to regionals, placing third in districts, and I didn't get very far into regionals. But with my technique improving this year, and hopefully just my overall wrestling prowess, I guess, I'd like to make it to state.
I think these two have a pretty good chance of doing so. And then beyond that, what are future ambitions for both of you? Pedro, what would you like to maybe do later on down the road?
I would like to go to university and then apply and hopefully get accepted into medical school and specialize in pediatrics and neonatal.
They're good for
specialty.
you. And we don't know which university yet next year, right? You're still working on
applying.
This. Still applying. Do you have a preference or where you'd like to go?
If I get accepted, I would hope that I would like to attend to UW.
University of Washington, okay. And then JC, for you, a little bit different path, but not an easy one.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking at different branches of the military. I want to go in and be able to pilot a plane. So I've talked to an Army recruiter, I've talked to a Marine recruiter that are local to Mountlake Terrace. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to join the military and fly.
So who knows, a future fighter pilot, a future doctor. Right now, two very good wrestlers trying to get to state, and they seem to be well on their way right now. Pedro, JC, both of you, thank you very much for coming in. Congratulations on a lot of success early this year, and we look forward to seeing if you guys can maybe make it down to the T-Dome later on this year.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to mention that when JC first came into the studio this morning, he shook my hand, and I thought I was going to end up on the floor.
He's a big guy,
They
strong
are
guy.
strong. I mean, I forget how strong the wrestlers are until you actually shake their hand.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe a little bit lighter next time, but nice that he's respectful and shaking hands, and obviously looking at maybe going into the military, so perhaps he's already getting a little bit of a head start there.
Yeah, very good. Well, okay, so we have some swimming to talk about, I guess?
Yeah, one quick note on swimming. Edmonds-Woodway picking up victories this week over Lynnwood and Meadowdale in a dual meet. Yuting Wang, and I hope I got your name right there, took first place in the 100 freestyle and in the 100 breaststroke. And now swimming is going to take a little bit of a hiatus, as they generally do at this time of year. I don't think we've got swimmers back in the pool, competitively anyway, until right around January 5th, I think, for the divers, and then January 8th for the rest of the swimmers. I guess that's for more open lap swimming during the holiday break, and also it's usually pool maintenance time. So swimmers, go ahead and eat the holiday goodies and then get ready to go, I guess, come 2019.
Yeah, well, we had some of the athletes in here, especially the wrestlers, eating from our holiday table. We had some snacks, and it's so funny. I mean, I think we've always seen that with the wrestlers. They're always ready to eat.
Well, and they're always looking to make weight this time of year. And now with Mountlake Terrace not having to compete again until January 9th, I guess Pedro and Jaice figure they'll work out any pounds they need to and enjoy the cookies and enjoy the other the snacks that go along with it this time of year.
That's right. Okay, so we have some holiday tournaments coming up.
We do. Some basketball games coming up. We'll start with the girls. First of all, not only holiday tournaments, but some non-conference games coming up, and none too soon right after Christmas. On December 26th, Mountlake Terrace will be hosting Cedar-Woolley. That's a 5:45 game. And then Meadowdale will host Lake Washington. And then the very next night, on Thursday the 27th, Meadowdale goes to Kamiak, and then Mountlake Terrace goes to Lake Washington. We've already talked about Lynnwood going up to Blaine for their holiday tournament. And this is the big one here. Edmonds-Woodway is going to play in the Top of the Peak tournament. This is an 8-team tournament over at Glacier Peak. And Brian Hill, the head coach for the Grizzlies, is actually treating this like a true tournament in the sense that if you win the first round game, you go into the semis on Friday, and then you would go into the championship on Saturday. All 8 teams are assured of 3 games, so they're going to get to play regardless, but they're ultimately trying to play for a prize there. And Glacier Peak's always very strong. They've got Kent Lake, Lewis and Clark, Peninsula, Sunnyside, WF West. So a lot of the top teams from really throughout the entire state of Washington are going to be there. Edmonds-Woodway will get rolling on Thursday night at 4:30. I should say Thursday afternoon. It's a 4:30 game against Chiawana from over in the Tri-Cities area. And if you can't make it out to any of these games, all 12 games from the tournament will be broadcasted by our friends over at stspn.com. So a great chance to watch some girls basketball. And really, if you want to get out to a gym and see quality basketball next week, Glacier Peak is the place to be. So head on out there. And then on the boys' side of things, a couple different notes here. Meadowdale's going to play at Bremerton on Friday for their final game of 2018. And then Mountlake Terrace is going to host their annual holiday tournament, which Edmonds-Woodway will also be at. So games going on from, I think, 3 o'clock on through 9:30 or 10 o'clock, both on Friday and Saturday. One $5 bill gets you in for an entire day of basketball. And just to give you some notes here as to when you can watch our local teams playing, Edmonds-Woodway will play against Ballard over at Mountlake Terrace at 6 o'clock on Friday. And then the very next day, they'll be playing Sunnyside at 4:30. Mountlake Terrace will be playing at 7:30 both Friday and Saturday against Lakeside and Ballard. So a lot of quality basketball going on around the area. So if you've got family in town, you want to do something inexpensive and watch some really good athletes playing quality basketball, get on out to one of these gyms and support the local students.
Well, sounds like a great way to spend the time, especially when we don't know if it's going to be raining more this week.
More likely than not usually, right?
Probably,
hey, and you're done with your spending at that point.
Yeah.
Get out, trying to get out of the house a little bit and have some fun.
Well, this is our last show of 2018, right?
It's flown, hasn't it?
So I can't
Usually
believe it.
does.
Yeah. So we hope you all have a happy New Year. We'll be back after the start of a new year. And thanks, as always, to Red Onion Burgers for supporting us. And we will see you then. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone.
Take care.